Hello, family. Pray everyone is doing well on tonight. I wanted to hop on here and just kind of drop a little encouraging word. Um, so on yesterday, I think it was last night. Um, God had pretty much spoke to me in the sense of He dropped a word in my spirit, and a lot of times that's how God deals with me. He might just drop one word in my spirit, and I think about the word so that I can see what it is that God is trying to say. Well, last night He dropped in my spirit neglect, and I said, "Geez, God, what do you mean about that?" He said that we have to stop neglecting ourselves, meaning, you know, we have to stop not doing what needs to be done for ourselves. A lot of times we tend to put everybody first. Everybody's before us, and we put ourselves on the back burner, and the things that we are in need of get tossed to the side because we're so busy putting others first. Now granted, we know that we need to be there for our loved ones. We need to help take care of them and stuff like that. We know that, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. God's not saying that we shouldn't. But at the same time, what He is saying is that we have to make sure that we don't neglect ourselves. We don't neglect our needs, right? When it comes down to what we need in the natural, as well as, most importantly, in the spiritual. So we have to make sure that, we are taking care of ourselves in the natural, doing what needs to be done for us in the natural. It's as far as in feeding our, our spirits and stuff like that, whether it be, excuse me, y'all, and my allergy signs are adding up, but whether it be in need of making sure that we're laughing, every chance we get, because the reality of it is that most of the time, a lot of us are going through many things, or we're around many things that don't allow us to laugh, right? Because we see so much that's going on, and sometimes, that kind of gets us down in our spirits. Sometimes if we have to be careful that we don't stay in those states, but a lot of times it just happens as far as, we get down for a moment, but we snap out of it, right? So we have to make sure that we surround ourselves with things that give us joy, that provide us with that laughter and that happiness that we need, because it is a part of a gift that God has provided for us. If it wasn't important, He wouldn't have those things as part of, different spiritual gifts, right? But also that we, just kind of take care of ourselves mentally and physically, all around. We can't neglect ourselves, right? But most importantly, we have to make sure that we're feeding our spirits. So we can't neglect our spirit, right? We have to make sure that we are reading our word and getting those words in our spirit so that we can, continue to do what's needed of us while we're yet here on earth. And especially so we can continue to do what's needed for us, right? Because the whole deal is we have to stop neglecting ourselves, right? So if we're not feeding our spirits, then we are neglecting ourselves, right? And whenever we neglect ourselves, things begin to happen, right? And we wonder why things are happening. And we wonder why we're feeling the way we're feeling. And a lot of times it's simply because we haven't chose to spend time with God, right? Because, like our pastor said, we have to choose to sit at the table with God, right? And when we're sitting at the table with God, God can feed us what our spirits is in need of during that time, during that season, right? But if we never take the time to actually sit at the table and be with God and eat His word, then we will never be fulfilled, right? And we'll be hungry. We'll be constantly hungry for something, trying to figure out what that void is. And the whole while that void is there because we have neglected to actually sit at the table and eat with our Father, the only one who truly knows what we are truly in need of at that time. So we got to be reminded to not neglect ourselves spiritually. We can't neglect ourselves in any way, but we definitely can't neglect ourselves spiritually, because we are in a need of that food, right? So that we can actually be able to do what we need to do doing this thing that we call life. So once again, I will encourage you to remember that we have to make sure that we do not neglect ourselves in any way, form, or fashion. It is needed in this season that we take time for ourselves and provide the things that our body, soul, spirit needs, right? It's real important because we have to feed it all, and we have to be mindful about what we are feeding it, right? So whenever we feed these things, that make us one, right? We feed them, we got to make sure we're feeding ourselves the right things so that we can be there for our loved ones, right? So we can be present for them, so we can be in the right mental space for them, that we can be in the right spiritual space for them, so we can be able to encourage them along the way. So you got to stop neglecting yourself. Take care of yourself first, right? So that you can be there for your loved ones, so that you can be there for yourself first, of course, right? But also that so you can be there for your loved ones, or even be there for the one that you don't even know, right? Because we know that God uses us, the stranger, to speak to the person that is in need. Because a lot of times that person, or even us, we need it to come from someone who does not know what we're going through. Because that is another way that we know that God knows and sees it all, and that he truly cares about his people. So once again, family, don't neglect yourself. Feed yourself. Love on yourself. And do what needs to be done in this season for you. Put you first. Amen. Love y'all. Have a blessed night.